I think we're live, brother.
Yeah, we're live. Folks, I've got a friendly, familiar face that you all know here. Um, this is Brother Palmer.
Watch your Palmer. It's good to be with you, Troy. Thanks
It's
for
really
inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do today, just for a few minutes, I know you don't have a lot of time because you're a busy man. Believe it or not, I don't know, you're kind of semi-retired, right?
Semi.
Yeah, semi-retired. Let's see here. Doggone it. I thought I had this figured out here.
A semi-retired person is a
confusing.
truck driver driving a semi.
Well, that's what I was going to say. See this hat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Penny Newman is a trucking company here that I worked for. Because a lot of people ask me, you've heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
They do silage. They do everything. Do you guys have silage there?
We do. It's like a pickled form of, you can silage hay, corn, all kinds of things. And it's for feedlots. It's to really put on the weight on the cows.
Right. So we grow corn out here.
Yeah.
Like we do all of that. But the deal is that it's not for most of everything we grow. Like 90%, we do feed the world. Okay, the Central Valley of California is just as foreign to LA. We are just as foreign to LA and San Francisco as you guys are. This is like 3 states. And the state has even talked about, people have wanted to divide in this state. We've talked about dividing. But 90% of the produce that we produce, the what would you call it? The agriculture is not for human consumption. It's for cattle. It's for dairy cattle.
Yeah.
So let me get this. We're going to talk a little bit about the war. I'm just getting this set up real quick, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tim Ballard. But first, we're going to talk about the war and about Israel. So I think this is probably more for me than it might be for my I was going to say my constituents. for my
followers, your listeners. Yeah.
Yes, for my listeners here. Okay, sorry. Now, what's going on with these ships? Why did we all of a sudden decide to do that? We went from Biden. I know what your opinion is, or what you might know. Biden says 2 days ago or 48 hours ago, we're not getting involved. But that's before also telling Benjamin Netanyahu not to do anything. Why did everything go topsy-turvy?
Well,
why did that all change?
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I love Israel. I've studied about Israel for about the last 5 years. But I have to say that I'm not an expert on this. Now, these ships were already in the Mediterranean, and they've just been told to head east. I think it's just a message that the U.S. is sending. Now, I think that the U.S. government has gotten way involved in so many other countries' business that they shouldn't have been involved in, that they are they're on a collision course, and they have to respond, in a positive way. Now, personally, I'm glad for this particular situation, but in all reality, the U.S. has helped Hamas, Palestinian, the PLO, terrorist organizations within Israel, without Israel. You have Hezbollah to the north, and money has been funneled to these places. because the U.S. just feels like they need to be involved in everything, which I think is a big mistake. And I've mentioned that on my channel with Ukraine and all that kind of stuff. So in essence, it's not surprising that the ships that were in the western part of the Mediterranean are now heading east just to have a presence. I don't know if we would engage, but I'm hearing reports that Hezbollah from the north of Israel is also launching some missiles, and I know there's been some gunfire there.
Hold on a second. Let me shut the door here. There's a lawnmower. And guess what? YouTube turned off my comments. They're messing with my privacy settings. So hold on just a second here.
Okay.
Okay. I'm here. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, so YouTube has turned off. So if there's no comments right now, folks, that's not me. That's not me. And it might be because this is a controversial subject. They've turned off the chat. And yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, so the West Bank is what Gaza is not. It's not the Valley of Megiddo, right?
No. Okay, so Gaza's south, the southern part of Israel, and to the west, right along. It's a little strip right along the Mediterranean, and it's south. And what Hamas did is they broke through their barrier. They were basically self-contained, and Israeli forces were around to protect the Israeli citizens from Hamas that were in Gaza. Gets a little complicated, but they broke through that barrier. They kidnapped Israeli citizens and mostly Jewish people. You have Israelis and then you have Jews, right? But they kidnapped these people. They took them in, and then they murdered many. And this was different than the Yom Kippur War 50 years ago, in that that was a declared war. That was governments that attacked Israel with military, and they mainly focused on military sites that they attacked. This is a terrorist attack by brutal savages that have no regard for life and just want to wipe out Jews. That's it. And Hamas is a proxy for Iran. And so Iran funds this, gives them the intelligence, and gives them the means to do this, because they don't have the capability to do what they did. There's no way. They just don't have the capability without Iran and other entities that hate Israel and want the destruction of Israel. So just to get it clear, when we say the West Bank, typically that's everything west of the Jordan River, which is kind of crazy because I don't like to call it the West Bank. I like to call it the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. Once we say the West Bank, we give credence to a Palestinian state. And if you're a believer, if you're Christian, and if you're Jewish, you believe in the Abrahamic covenant of priesthood, posterity, and property, and the land of Israel is promised. And so this idea of a West Bank is, I think it's a misconception. But Gaza is a separate animal, if you will, separate entity.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel that as you've been watching the media, do you see, I don't see, it's interesting. There's not a lot of biasness right now. It's funny how the left is not quite pro-Israel, yet they're adamant, they're bound to send support there. Do you see what I'm saying? The Biden administration, that's why I don't think it's just the Biden administration that's behind sending these ships over there. What do you think?
Well, I listened to, is it Anthony Blinken? Is that his name? The Secretary of State, I believe.
Yeah.
I listened to him talk yesterday out of both sides of his mouth. It was really interesting. So the U.S. freed up money, $6 billion, was it, that was held from sanctions, and freed it up and gave it to Iran, put it in a separate account, and then Blinken says, but they can only use it for humanitarian purposes. Well, that's a joke. I mean, once it's in their hands, how do you determine how they're going to use it? And then he said something interesting. He goes, "We're looking in to see if Iran has any involvement in this situation with Hamas." And that is such common knowledge that Iran is using Hamas. They're the proxy. They're the ones that are there, and they fund them. They brag about it. The leaders of Iran are thrilled over this operation that's happened. So it's quite obvious. So I agree with you that the administration, the U.S. administration, is kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth. And then you have the squad, right? Who they just want a de-escalation. They just want either side to stop, not even acknowledging the slaughter and the brutality and the savagery of what just took place.
Right.
So you have these weird elements, and then there's one other opposing view I've heard, that the Israeli government is so corrupt, and you have this judicial reform that's been going on where Benjamin Netanyahu wants to, it gets a little complicated, but from what I understand, their judicial branch is similar to our Congress. And that judicial branch has become more powerful than what the prime minister is.
Yes. So that was this uprising, or this upheaval, or this unrest, like about 4 months ago.
Exactly, and it's continued. And so some people are saying that Israel has brought this upon themselves because they're trying to change the government, and that's absurd. There is that issue going on there. And my understanding is Benjamin Netanyahu wants to just return it back to the way it used to be. But right now, the judicial portion of their government has more control than any other entity, and they can never decide. Just like our Congress, they never get anything done. They never do anything.
Right. Okay.
They just argue. So some people are pointing to that as the reason why there's this unrest and why it happened. But that's absurd, because this is just Jew hatred. It's Jew hatred is what it is.
Right. Okay. Hold that thought for a second, Palmer. That makes a lot of sense to me. So we got chats opened again. I'm telling you, folks, nefarious things happening, but then we don't have comments. Comments are not open. I know this is like boring to some of you, but for those who care, we do not have the comments. You see what they do? Or am I just wearing a tinfoil hat, Scott?
No. I've had so many weird things. I quite often I'll get comments on the in the YouTube studio that never show up on the regular, comment section.
Right.
And tons of people have said, why did you erase my comment? Why? I didn't say anything. And I'm like, I never touched it. I didn't, it's not me, but it's a crazy format.
Yeah. So everyone says hi, Scott. Yeah. They're calling us two of the best, of the best.
Well, you're the best. You've been putting out some awesome stuff lately, by the way. Just
let me tell you something. When I sit in front of your videos, though, Palmer, It's like get the popcorn. I don't know. Palmer's one person. When you talk to him privately on the phone, he's kind of boring. He's kind of boring. When he gets in front of that camera, it's like, all right, children, gather around here. We're going to talk about the things going on in the world of whatever. But it's I don't know. The other day when you were talking about what happened to you as a mission, your stories as mission president and stake president, I'm going, really? Everybody's like that. So anyway, I've got my Venmo link too. If anybody wants to support the channel, any little bit helps. And I got that in the chats there. Okay, so back to what we're talking about here.
Can I mention one thing that just popped into my head? So there's been several that have asked me on my channel if it's safe to go to Israel, and I'm like, heck yeah, go, and that might be a little one-sided on my part. I'm 65. I'm ready to die any moment. I don't really care. Yeah. And if I died, Israel would be a great place to die. But personally, I think you just go with, if you're using a travel agency, if you're going, with a group, just go with what they say. You don't necessarily have to listen to me, but it was just, people would ask, if it were you, would you go? And I said, yes. So just to be responsible, I guess I should say, check with the Israeli government. You can go on their website. You can find out what travel restrictions. It's very, very easy if you're doing your own thing. If you're with a group, just ask your tour agency. They'll be on top of everything. But from my understanding right now, everything is still a go for travel to Israel. And I still think it's safer, other than right around the Gaza Strip, it's still safer than most of our major cities.
So is it small? Okay, so it's not a very convoluted small, like, for instance, if you want to go to the Mount of Olives, you're not seeing a lot of that activity there.
Right. That's right in Jerusalem. And so many of the sites you're going to see are right in Jerusalem.
How many miles away is sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. How many miles away is Gaza from Jerusalem?
From Jerusalem, if I were guessing, I would say probably about maybe 100 miles. Galilee, if you look on a map, Galilee's about 80 miles from Jerusalem, straight north. And so you could kind of see on a map the distance.
Okay, so 80 miles from Gaza to Jerusalem?
Maybe 100 miles from Gaza to Jerusalem. Oh, wow.
It's not just, okay, so most people have in their minds like 7 miles or 10, like they're just shooting rockets right over, like, yeah. Boom. But that's entirely not the case.
But on the other hand, the whole state of the whole country, if you will, of Jerusalem is about the size of the state of New Jersey.
Oh,
it's just elongated. So to put things in perspective, the deaths and injuries of what happened in the country of Israel on Saturday are many times greater than the destruction that occurred in the U.S. as a country on 9/11. Many times greater. If you put it in that perspective, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal.
This is a huge deal. And one thing that made my stomach a little unsettled is I'm not going to forget this. You know how you've got all these sayings like, this is a day that will, what is it? In infamy?
That will go down in infamy.
Okay. Yeah. Like little sayings like that, or Neil Armstrong when they faked the moon landing. No. One small step, cut. Can you do that a little bit better? I'm joking. All the astronaut supporters are mad at me. Okay, so when Benjamin Netanyahu said this is not This isn't just your regular Molotov cocktails. This isn't just a couple missiles we are at war.
Yeah, it's a declaration of war, and we will win, is what he said. And they will see a retaliation like they've never seen before, like nobody's ever seen before. And I believe that.
I don't like when some of the Israelis are chanting goodbye, or this is the end of the Palestinians. People are forgetting there's women and children that born and raised here. So we have to be careful, right?
And the Israeli government, the Israeli government has bent over backwards to try to create a peaceful situation. They really have, and they get a bad rap. Virtually every interior attack by, whether it's in Nablus or which is the ancient city of Shechem, or some of these other places, it's always the radical Palestinians that begin the attack on the Jewish people, and then there's a retaliation by the IDF or military police, and then they get the blame. It's almost like in a football game or in a basketball game. Quite often, the person that gets called for the foul is just the one that retaliated. The one guy gets just pummeled it or gets slugged in the face, and the refs don't see that, but they see the other guy going, "Hey, wait a minute, you just hit me. I'm going to hit you back." And that's what ends up happening. But it just goes back to Jew hatred. It really does.
Well, and it does. It's anti-Israel. It's also the irony is that the Jews do not, your Jews do not are not Messianic Jews.
Right.
And the irony is that we don't, as Jews and Christians, we believe that Jesus is a Messiah. They do not. They're still waiting for the Messiah. But the funny thing is that all of this is anti both of us. It is anti-Christianity because we are the biggest supporters of Israel. Are we not? We are the biggest supporters of Israel. Evangelical Christians are some of the hugest supporters of Israel and Latter-day Saints.
Well, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints should be the greatest, because the two biggest volumes of scripture we have, the Bible and the Book of Mormon, all came from Jews. We owe it all to the Jewish people. If you read 1st and 2nd Nephi go over and over and over again, says, "I'm a Jew. I came from Jerusalem." And we might say, well, but Lehi was from the tribe of Manasseh, still considered himself Jewish because he was from Jerusalem, and so does Nephi. And so when you think about it, the Book of Mormon came from, and then Mormon says he's a direct descendant of Nephi and Lehi, a direct descendant. So he's Jewish. He's Jewish in that sense. So our Book of Mormon is Jewish. And of course, the Bible. Nephi even says, when he goes, a Bible, we've got a Bible. And he goes, where did the Bible come? It came from the Jews. It came from us. And you people are condemning the Jews, where the Bible was provided to you by the Jews. So we say we're a Judeo-Christian country. That's exactly what that means.
We are Judeo-Christian. That's right. And
yes.
I was just reading about John F. Kennedy the other day. Just a little side note, like fun fact. I do a lot of fun facts, and people go, "Dude, why are you derailing off the conversation?" Here's another fun fact. Okay. John F. Kennedy was a Catholic. There was a time where Catholicism was not popular because we were Protestants and Mormons. Protestants and Mormons were like, Mormons think they're the epitome of everything, but there's 6 million members of the church in the United States, and there's also 6 million Jews in the United States. Did you know that? We're about the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It is. And there was a time where Catholicism was not popular. until John F. Kennedy became president. The reason Catholics even started coming to the United States was during a lot of the immigrants during the turn of the century in like the late 1800s, and the Russian Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox Church, is that what it's called? And the Italians and the everybody coming over here, and the Irish. The Irish brought a lot of Catholicism. But overall, yes, we are a Judeo-Christian nation. And so what are you seeing some biasness in the news as far as being what's the United Nations? Have you heard anything from the I haven't been keeping up on a lot.
I haven't heard anything from the United Nations on this particular thing, but if you go back with the United Nations, they have are resolutions. They don't have a real, there's no authority with the United Nations, but when they have a resolution against a country, they'll do that. Israel has more resolutions against them from the United Nations than any other country. And think of the atrocities of China and many of the Arab nations to their own people.
Right.
And yet no resolutions or very few resolutions against them. But Israel, bam, bam, bam. So when you're talking about prophecy being fulfilled, that all the nations will be against Israel, prophecy fulfilled with the United Nations, because they are definitely against Israel.
As
a body.
Absolutely.
But I haven't heard anything on this particular, on the war right now. I haven't heard anything come out yet.
The funny thing is too, is that if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, how much do you think we are swamp creatures and those who are in bed with the global oligarchs and the autocracy, the autocrats, and this new world order thing? You know what I mean? Some are saying this is all a prefabricated thing. Others are saying that that this is the war machine. This is the military industrial complex behind some of this. I don't think we'll ever really know, folks. Honestly, that's not something that, unless you're in the meetings with the Bilderbergs and all these other people, you're not going to know what's going on. It's sad. It's just really sad, because I don't think it's just an Arab thing. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's just the hatred for Jews from the Arabs. There's a lot going on here. There's money involved, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and I probably need to be careful with this being a live thing, but if you really study the history of Ukraine, and particularly in the World War II, the atrocities directed towards the Jews during World War II, just check out the history of how Ukraine participated in that. Wow, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you have this tie-in of you talk about, if you want to talk about a corrupt government, we can go to Ukraine really fast and see what's going on there. Now, I know within the Latter-day Saint community, there's a lot of support for Ukraine and a lot of hatred towards Russia. And I think this is dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's probably a different topic. But if it does connect part of the dots when you're talking about, a global conspiracy or a deep state kind of thing. All these puzzle pieces are part of it. Now, I'm not saying that it's a coordinated conspiracy, but it's like-minded people who want to take away agency and freedom, and they want to be in control and have power. Now, whether they are coordinating this all together, I doubt it, but the effect is there, and it goes deep, and it goes back a long ways in time. And we're seeing the results of that. And the prophecy is that it will culminate, and the center of that will be in Israel.
Absolutely. And that's what it comes down to. Whether you think the Arabs are the victims or you think the Jews, I'm not talking to this community here. I'm just saying overall.
Exactly.
We know one thing, and I keep saying this, and I said it yesterday, is that Palestine, it will not be called Palestine. It will be called Israel, and the Savior will be the king over it. And the Jews, and it's biblical, the Jews will run to him. I talked to a guy that, you've heard of Kent Jackson. He's a scholar.
I haven't.
He's a Mormon scholar, Latter-day Saint scholar. Sorry. I've been saying Mormon again because people started saying that again for some reason.
Just do it at church. Do it at priesthood meeting and just watch people pounce on you.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh, Ken Jackson writes about a figurative Armageddon, that it's really not going to happen. It's not a physical thing.
Yeah.
Israel's not going to be. And I'm like, are you kidding me? These are people that want to keep living in Babylon. That's my opinion. They're afraid that something like this is going to happen. Go ahead.
Well, I'll add another name to that, and that's Michael Wilcox. Not Brad Wilcox, but Michael Wilcox, who's a scholar, a teacher, a professor, has written many books. Many people know him. And Sue and I went on our first tour in Israel 5 or 6 years ago now, 5 years ago, I think. And he was our guide in Israel. And I specifically asked him about Armageddon, and he said the exact same thing, that it's more of a metaphor, but it's not. And Armageddon is a valley. Megiddo, it's a valley about 60 miles or so north of Israel. It's a beautiful valley, the Jezreel Valley, and it flows all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. So you can see where this would be a strategic point. So you talk about these ships coming in, you talk about all this, and it's the most fertile valley in all of Israel. You talk about where you live is the kind of the breadbasket of California and really the nation.
Right.
Well, the valley of Megiddo, or the Jezreel Valley, or the Valley of Armageddon, is that same type of valley. And there's been many, many, many ancient battles fought in this valley.
Many.
And it will be, again, the culmination of this last battle. Now, I'm going to cover this on one of my videos coming up here, when I'm going to talk about the abomination of desolation, or the desolation that, or the abomination that makes desolate. But the inspired version of Matthew chapter 24, and it's the Pearl of Great Price, Joseph Smith, Matthew 1. If you go into that, it talks about the destruction of Jerusalem that's going to happen at 70 AD. So here's Christ speaking to his apostles, and he said, Jerusalem's going to get wiped out. There's not going to be one stone upon the other of the temple and the buildings on the mount. But then if you go and you read in the Joseph Smith version, it says, and again, the abomination of desolation spoken of Daniel the prophet will be fulfilled. So in the latter days, that same destruction is going to occur. So two things have to happen. One is Israel has to become a state. 1947, it became a state. Israel will have to be rebuilt. It's been rebuilt. It's one of the most modern, wonderful countries. The technology, the amount of I was going to say resources, but resources in every sense of the word that's come out of Israel recently is just amazing. The intellectual knowledge, the farming knowledge, the
isn't it amazing that happened right after Orson Pratt dedicated the land too?
It began.
It's neat.
And so these prophecies, Wilford Woodruff said that the Jews will rebuild their city and they will rebuild their temple. Joseph Smith said something similar. And so we do have a little difference with, not a little, quite a bit of difference with Bruce R. McConkie and Joseph Fielding Smith. They say that the temple has to be built by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I would disagree with that. I would go more along with Wilford Woodruff in that the Jews will build their temple on the Temple Mount.
Right.
And I know this is getting off track a little bit.
No, it's not. It's actually very relevant. We don't know, and it could still be Jews, converted Jews, or maybe it doesn't have to be converted Jews. Because
if you think about a building of a temple today, is it members of the church that build the temple? Typically not. But the temple becomes dedicated.
Mormon contractors? No.
Yeah, they're just dudes, right? And
we're going to win the bid. Here's how it's going to go. We're going to talk to the Jews. Actually, this is based on a true story. Who was it? Was it Skousen? Who was it that was doing a lot of stuff over there? One of the Skousen brothers. One of the Skousen crew.
Cleon.
Was it him that was telling them how the temple was constructed? He was teaching the Jews there.
Yeah.
A group of Jews, or the Messianic Jews, not Messianic, sorry. Some of the, what do you call the Jews that want to build the temple? They're very.
You have the Kohanim that are of the tribe of Levi, but you have the Temple Institute. That's the organization that's getting ready to build the temple on the Temple Mount. They have everything all ready to go. And it's probably that organization that Cleon Skousen had an influence with before it actually became the Temple Institute.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing. When Hamas attacked a couple of days ago, what did they call what was it called? They had a title for their attack. It was the Al-Aqsa flood or something like that, meaning the Al-Aqsa mosque. How do you say that? Dang it.
Let me Google it.
It's the mosque on top of the Temple Mount. It's not the shrine. It's not the Dome of the Rock, but it's the mosque. Al-Aqsa. On
top. I'm so tired. I spelled mosque, M-O-S-K. Mosque.
That's okay.
I am Zog, and I must find mosque. Okay, mosque on top of temple is called the Masjid Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa.
Okay. So their title of their attack, their brutal attack, was the Al-Aqsa flood, meaning what you Jews did to our sacred site on the Temple Mount is the reason we're doing this. And then did you see what the Israeli title of their response to this? It's called Swords of Iron. Swords of Iron. I just got goosebumps.
I was just gonna say that.
Swords of iron, because we say this, we say the iron rod is the word of God. But there's more references to the word of God being a sword, sharper than a two-edged sword. In fact, when we study in Ephesians that we just studied this last week.
Also, don't the Levites already have the priesthood? And aren't the guys that build the temple Levites?
Yeah, they are.
Then why do people not remember that? Why do we not ever bring that up?
I don't know. And we have the sons of Levi offering up a sacrifice.
That's right.
But listen to this. So this is the pure, the full armor of God that Paul talks about in Ephesians, but he says, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. The sword, it's the only offensive weapon that Paul describes. Everything else is a defense or a protection of the body, but the sword, and then to have the IDF and Israel say that our response is going to be titled Swords of Iron. Oh, I'm hoping that that's an indication that it's actually the word of God that they're going to take with them into battle. That's my hope.
No, this is beautiful. And I was going to say, maybe we're contractors, LDS contractors that win the bid on helping build the temple, but we don't need that. The Levites, I don't know. Who knows?
No, you're right. And why would we limit God as to who he can have, if he can have King Cyrus.
Well, they're going to see that we're building temples everywhere, and they're going to go, you're friends with Jeffrey R. Holland's pretty sick now, but you're friends with so-and-so that goes to the Mormon church. They build temple. Oh, and they know all about how it's constructed. Have you seen their their tabernacle that they redo every year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We should talk to them. Who knows?
Exactly. This is just a side note, but I know some of your listeners will have followed Jonathan Cahn. So
I know who Jonathan Cahn is.
He's so awesome. Well, he just did a video called The Holy Underwear. Holy Underwear. I listened to it and watched it this morning. It's only like a 15-minute video. You guys, you have to watch it.
He talks about the garments they wore, huh?
Exactly. Of the priests and the temple, and how he almost said the words, an outward expression of an inner commitment to follow the Savior.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious.
See, this is, to me,
Jonathan Cahn is a Jew who was converted to Christianity. He talks about his story when he was up on a mountain somewhere and he had this epiphany.
Exactly.
Jonathan Cahn, he's interesting. Some people, it's interesting because those are esoteric principles that what's his name? Hugh Nibley, when he went to Egypt all the time and would show that the Jews going over for so many years to Egypt, the Egyptians kind of mixed their religion with Judaism. They have the compass, they have the square, they have all of that. They have the, all that, putting on the, you know what I mean? The signs.
Well, it says in the book of Abraham that Pharaoh was a righteous man, and fain claimed the priesthood through Ham. This is interesting stuff because we have a connection to Egypt, just like we have a connection to Israel, just like we have a connection to England, Scotland, and Wales, because of the scattering of the 10 tribes. Ephraim, that got scattered. They were part of the 10 tribes. Most of the early converts were from Ephraim. Ephraim originated in Egypt through Joseph's son, being Ephraim. And then when the children of Israel with Joshua comes into the promised land, their land is divided up. Ephraim's land was north of where Jerusalem would be, which we would call the land of Samaria. That's the land of Ephraim, and so we have ties, we have blood. Now I believe in the patriarchal blessings as being literal. So when it says you're from the loins, from the blood, from the lineage of somebody, then I take that literal. So when you get a chance to go to Israel, you'll go, I'm home. I'm home. When you go to Egypt, you'll go, this is part of my home. Joseph,
that's so neat. That's neat.
Married an Egyptian So we have that blood in us, and you feel it when you go there. And so for us to just ignore what goes on in Israel, and then later on, of course, most of us came from in the early converts of the church came from England, Scotland, Wales, that area. Blood of Ephraim.
So absolutely.
Anyway.
No, this is rich cheesecake, brother. Like rich cheesecake. Like I'm just like devouring. Let me read some comments real quick. Okay. Actually, the comment section is, man, YouTube is, if I could go over to Silicon Valley right now, I'm going to drive over there right now. No. Anyway, Foxy says Gaza is about 50 miles from Jerusalem. I don't know.
Okay.
Let me keep going here. Sherry says, glad to see you're with Palmer doing a live. Yes, Kim, I said thank you to Elle for the somebody sent some gas money. Cleon Skousen is amazing. And thank you, Kim. Kim's a moderator. She had to remove somebody that was just kind of getting anti-Mormon-y and talking crap about Elder Ballard. Thank you, Kim, for all you do. Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Yes, absolutely. Luke 21. Let's see here, just real quick.
Luke 21 is the version of Matthew 24. Yeah, and then the Ezekiel wars. Absolutely.
Right.
38 and 39.
Right. Oh, somebody said, I think the situation in Israel is a lot more important. Tim Ballard cannot start World War III. I don't know, man. I think Tim had a lot to do with this.
He's been blamed for everything else. We might as well blame him for this.
And thank you, Elle, for everything. Okay, somebody says Iran is funding so is Hamas funding? Wait, is Iran? Okay, let me stop. So is Iran? Oh, okay, it's their typo. Iran is funding Hamas and USA is funding Iran through the back door. How do you feel about that? Okay.
I think it's absolutely true.
Okay. All right. Let's switch gears because I know I don't want to wear you out, Scott. Talk about Tim a little bit. I know that the Ward Radio guys did something, and I don't think everyone's like, yeah, they're talking about something's come up. No, Glenn hasn't put anything out yet since he said that on his podcast. Right? The Blaze hasn't really come out with anything newer yet. It's kind of nothing burgerish, right?
Yes and no. So as far as I know, Glenn hasn't talked any more than what he talked on his podcast, but the Blaze put out a statement. And Glenn put that out, but it's a statement that you have to read. And the Word guys, I watched their video on it, and it just confirmed everything I thought. It's just the investigation that the Blaze did was just talking to these anonymous women,
right,
and hearing their allegations. Now it gets pretty graphic and pretty specific, and there's a couple of text messages on burner phones, from what I understand, but they could be taken totally out of context. There's no context to those.
So they did, okay, because Jamie Young says the Blaze released a story over the weekend. Yeah. It's quite long regarding Tim.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. I had to tweak something real quick. Can you back up a little bit? I'm sorry, Palmer, please.
No. It's okay.
Okay. So what do we got going?
Statement, the Blaze came out with a statement based on their investigation. So they were holding off on that statement because the attorneys of the women, the allegation women, the attorney said, don't put anything out yet. Well, they got permission to go ahead and put it out. But it's all with a few more little details. It's basically anonymous women and their allegations. And then you just have to, decide. Now, you've been consistent. I've been consistent on this. Is why are we stressed about this when it's nothing more than allegations? There's been no charges.
Exactly.
there have been there's been one investigation that I don't think had anything to do with this. It was more of the money situation with Tim Ballard and that by Davis County, which is in Utah. And then that investigation was dropped. Tim did resign from the Operation Underground Railroad hour. He resigned.
And let me tell you something, a very close person to the guy that actually was involved in all that money laundering stuff.
Yeah.
Or the money issues. It wasn't laundering, but it was some other money issues. It's detailed. Tim had nothing to do with it, but because he was the poster child, the poster boy or whatever he was the spokesperson for Operation Underground Railroad, and he basically started it. He walked away, and with all the other allegations, he did that for the good of the organization, according to some other people. But what do you think? I don't know. Go ahead.
I just flat out don't know. I don't know if he's guilty of anything or everything. And so until that comes out, why are we reacting to these allegations? From anonymous people, they could be totally legit. I don't know. But why destroy a man?
Right.
And really, absolutely. I think of his wife and family, his children, like 10 children.
And we're not remembering that those are innocent people too.
Exactly.
We're forgetting, and we come from a country of due process, and the Constitution says we're doing the same thing. Okay, look, we don't know if he's guilty or not, but there's nothing there. So until there's real something there, something legitimate, I'm, as a human being and as an American and as a person that loves God and man, I'm going to say he is innocent. He has clean hands as far as I'm concerned. There is no blood on his garments. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. There's only a couple of things that I think could change the narrative, and that's if he confesses to something and says, I did it, and it's this, or there's real hard evidence that comes forward. But even still, then what? What have we proven? What have we done? Like, what's our end goal here to condemn this guy? Like, I guess I just
let's not forget these guys right here. Let's not forget these guys. Sorry, I'm trying to get all special. See,
look at that.
Come on, guys. I got this whole crew over here, special effects guys, and they screwed it up. Come on, get your act together. Don't forget. Doggone it, this thing's getting in the way. Don't forget these guys. There we go.
Cloak and dagger.
This guy right here, the Emperor. So I think the Emperor why have I been calling him Zorro? The Emperor has a lot to do with it. I think that's
with the purchase of Vice
2 months ago
by Zorro, and I still think
isn't that his footprint? All these news stations in Utah, his footprints in Utah, brother.
It really
Romney
is.
In 2012, Newt Gingrich trying to say that Mitt was funded by the Emperor, and so was Obama, and he was the puppet master. You know, you play the guy with the strings.
And you did an excellent investigative job on connecting those dots, by the way. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Really, really good. But the timing is so interesting, because if I was a victim, and I didn't feel like I got any justice from the company I worked for, meaning Our, and even though Tim resigned, if I didn't feel like I was vindicated and that something was done with me being a victim, when the movie was coming out, that would be a time where I would start approaching YouTubers and social media influencers and saying, hey, this Tim Ballard, this movie's coming out and he's a joke. he's a bad person. But the movie came out, everything happened.
Nobody said anything.
All these Mormon YouTubers and Rumble guys, they had Tim on and they propped him up and everything was great. And then, only then, after it was leaked out that Tim might be running for Senate, then, so the timing seems off to me, but you know what? They could totally be legitimate victims. I don't know. But if you're going to remain anonymous and everything's an allegation, then I totally agree with you. Tim is innocent until proven guilty. Isn't that what we say?
Yeah. Yeah. And if somebody's really guilty of something, don't we go straight for that? Don't we go like if there's a smoking gun, we go directly to the smoking gun. There it is right there. You look there. It's hot to the touch. You smell that. There's gunpowder. There's blood. Look, this is the smoking gun right here. You don't go around the house and go, well, that kind of looks like a gun over there. Let's see. What's over here? This kind of looks like a clue over here. That's the problem. Guilt looks like guilt. It looks absolutely like guilt. The other thing is, I always say, if it eats Chinese food like a duck, it's a duck. If it does Pilates like a duck, it's a duck. If it takes what are you plugging now these days? Plug your thing. Cardio, what is it?
Cardio Miracle.
All right,
I love it.
Do your commercial. Come on.
Well, I'm telling you, with the travel we've done for 2 weeks in England and Scotland and the air flights and all that stuff, lack of sleep, everything. I'm such a believer in it. It's just, I'm getting ready for some hunts. So I'm wanting to stay healthy. The worst thing that can happen is you draw a tag for a hunt of a lifetime, and you want to be healthy for that hunt, right? So I'm a believer in it. It creates a nitric oxide, and you can Google nitric oxide. And so the ingredients in Cardio Miracle create the nitric oxide that really takes oxygen through your body and gives you, it provides, and I got to be careful because the Food Drug Administration and everything, because it is a supplement. But when you get oxygen all through your system, there's healing, there's more mental clarity, there's just all kinds of things. I love it. So there's the plug.
Absolutely. I need to do a lot more than take that, though. I'll tell you that. I should start with stop eating Twinkies and drinking rock stars. Stop telling babies to get in your belly.
Get in my belly.
Get in my belly.
You know what? This is the humanity of all of us. We all have something, this is what I love about you, is the realism, because every single one of us are fighting something, some challenge, some issue. And if we think that we've conquered everything and we've overcome the natural man, it's baloney. We're not going to do that until we are done. Until we are done. And right now we wake up in the morning and we fight the battle of the natural man until we go to sleep. And even in our sleep, we fight the battle of the natural man. It's just Absolutely. The way it is. Yeah.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. And I think the thing about Tim Ballard is the reason we don't have a lot on him is because we really don't have a lot on him. And I want to, before we go, I want to read the just to go up here and do a little house cleaning and comment reading real quick. Leaving off from enjoy listening to you both, from Brian. Thank you, Brian. And by the way, I left my my Venmo link, if you want to support the channel, anything will do. It's right there in the chat. I don't know what's going on with the comments section, but it wasn't me, folks. It was not me. So I'm going to figure out what's going on with that. The Blaze, Jamie says the Blaze released a story over the weekend. Okay, we talked about that. Kim says it feels like by discrediting Tim, they hope to discredit child T. Yes, the human T trafficking. I always get reluctant to say anything. They're going to do something as a real thing. Yes, Kim. Jamie says, I was hoping, and I read this earlier, Jamie, I was hoping that the article would mention Zorro or the emperor and Romney's influence, but the Blaze steered clear from it. And it's frustrating because Glenn said, and you're right. You're absolutely right, Jamie. Glenn said that he wanted full disclosure and truth, but leaves it out. Now, I still listen to Glenn Beck. I know that Glenn Beck has, I don't know if you would, some say he didn't flip flop. He just changed his mind about Trump, you know, in 2016, was it 15? 2015?
16. It was 16.
Yeah, it was
when he made a statement that it would be immoral to vote for Trump and that
right.
Morally vote for Hillary.
That's a strong statement. That's not just somebody going, I don't like Trump. That's somebody going,
yeah.
No, it is bad and evil to vote for Trump.
Exactly.
So, you know, here's the question, and don't attack me, all of you Glenn Beck lovers, because I like Glenn Beck, but I also know he's a human being and he's looking out for number one too. Okay. And he's in the limelight, and sometimes people will it's called self-preservation, especially when you're another person up on that pedestal. Okay. Is Glenn Beck distancing himself? Is he trying to give complete full disclosure? That's just a question. That's just a question. All right, guys. All right. So, and then Cherie Cox says Mittens. Yes, Mittens is Mitt Romney. And then Cherie Cox, I'm not saying he is involved, but loves seeing you both at the same time. Thank you so much, Lori Smith. Exactly 100%. You got one more chance, folks, to donate to me, to the channel through the Venmo, and then go to Scott Palmer.
Watch your Palmer.
Bring it on, folks, because I'm telling you what, if you like fireside chats, you need a fireplace in there, bro, like behind you. You really do. Have you dusted those guys back there lately?
Probably not, but don't tell my wife. She's out of town for this week.
I can see the dust. You can
see the dust.
No, I'm joking. All right, let's sign off. Don't go away, Scott. Hold on. Let me sign off. Let me get rid of these guys. All right. You guys have a wonderful, let me see. Oh, how do we do this? Oh.